And Station Houston on 2 for Sam. Are you ready for the event?
I'm ready for the event.
European Space Agency, this is Mission Control Houston. Please call station for a voice check.
Station, this is Jules Grandcy of the European Space Agency here in the headquarters of the Italian Space Agency in Rome. How do you hear me?
Jules and Italian Space Agency, I hear you loud and clear.
Very good. We have a good lineup of journalists here for the first press conference of the ASI Futura mission, and we go for the first question.
Gianluca Cerato, Lamoro. Wall pass.
Gianluca Cerato.
La cosa e la sensazione che ti piacciono di più ad oggi in orbita?
What are the sensations that you like the most today on orbit?
Mi vengono in mente almeno due
Well,
cose.
a couple of things come to mind. One is the sensation of weightlessness. It's something exceptional. The idea of being able to let yourself go and just floating, or closing your eyes and looking to understand the sensations that you are getting from your brain, or the tricks that your brain is giving you. It's telling you you're moving in a direction, but in reality you're moving in another direction, so it's kind of funny. And then it's a beautiful thing, obviously, the view from the cupola of our planet. It's an exceptional spectacle. It's absolutely marvelous. Hi, Samantha. This is Marta Meli from TG24. This is my question. You were talking about the view from the cupola, and you said you've seen or photographed Italy, Milan, the Alps. What did you feel, and what have you been feeling in these days? Something so special, and what have you been feeling?
No, devo dire di no. Al momento prevale davvero l'entusiasmo.
Right now, enthusiasm is the greatest feeling, and the ability to find new images, new things, new details every day. Seeing Italy was an intense emotion. Well, first of all, it's my country, so there's a special love for it. But then Italy from space is just beautiful. Maybe it's this very unique shape of the boot. Maybe it's because it's very bright, but this combination of mountains and coastlines and islands, it's absolutely beautiful. So it warms your heart. And the feelings in general here are beautiful because it's a combination of funny and fun aspects. You know, the moment you have a free moment, you can just let yourself float, and it's a nice, fun feeling. And then also, it's also a very intense rhythm of work, so it's stimulating from a professional standpoint, having to follow up with all the things that we're doing. One moment you're doing science, the next moment you're doing maintenance. So you have to change from one type of activity to another rapidly, so especially at the beginning, and I'm still at the beginning. There's so much to learn, and there's a lot of things to learn to become more efficient and fast in this rhythm of moving from one activity to the next. Good morning, Samantha. This is Adriana D'Aquino from Enechronos. You were talking about the trick that your brain plays and scientific activities. Now, have you already begun any experiments? Are there already some answers? Thank you.
Sull'attività scientifica, devo dire, ho avuto
On the scientific activity, I've had a trial by fire on my second day of work on ISS. As I was talking about earlier, there's a learning curve, so the first few days you're pretty slow, and you're asking a lot of questions to the other crew members who are more senior, particularly Butch Wilmore, who's our commander, who's helped us a lot. And I found on the schedule an experiment from the Italian Space Agency that is very important, very interesting on neurology and the strategies that the brain is doing to adapt to the weightlessness. And it's a pretty complex experiment because it requires to use several cameras, and it requires to do a few things over several hours, very complex. And so it was definitely a trial by fire. But obviously, ever since then, I've done many more for the Italian Space Agency, a number of ultrasound. I've done a collection of urine and saliva for another experiment from ASI. And in the past 36 hours, I just took them off, but I've had a number of temperature sensors that monitored for 36 hours my temperature for circadian rhythms for ESA and many, many others. So every day we do several experiments. Naturally, I can't talk about experiments because those need to be reduced and elaborated from the ground teams. And they'll be the ones who will publish the results of this research. So at this point in time, I can't know what those are.
Ciao Samantha.
Hi Samantha. Giorgio Pacifici from TG2, right? So you were dreaming to become an astronaut ever since you were a girl. How far is everyday life on ISS from what you were dreaming about? How is it different? Well, when you're dreaming to become an astronaut as a little girl, you're talking about the more iconic scenes, so the launch or a spacewalk or things almost film-like. So obviously, everyday life on ISS has many aspects, many everyday aspects of routine, which is definitely not something that I had in mind when I was dreaming of becoming an astronaut as a little girl, but it's beautiful, it's very interesting. It's a little bit what I've mentioned before about flight. I like to observe this experience and to transform day after day into a space creature, so to become a little more able to move around through the modules, you know, flying, if you want to say it that way. But to know a little better the ISS every day, so to feel a little more at home, you know, feeling a little more fast and efficient in the everyday things and in my work. And so I really like this process. Good morning, Samantha. Enrica Battifoglio from ANSA. I have to say that the moment that you went into the ISS, you were the image of happiness. So if somebody were to ask me, what does a happy person look like, I would evoke that image. So I wanted to ask you, living this beautiful experience, the moment that so far you would have to pinpoint as the happiest, the most beautiful, what would that be? I have a hard time to pick one on that day, on that launch day, because it was a truly exceptional time. There's an intensity of feelings and images and of things that were happening so rapidly. So it was from the hours before launch through preparation, and finally when we went on the launch pad, there was a beautiful scene that I did not expect. When you were going up to the launch pad, there are some stairs. So maybe you've seen on the images, you go up some steps, and then the crew turns around to wave one last time, and then you go up on the elevator. So at that time, the wind was bringing the steam from the combustion, from the fuel, so this white fog that you can see in the images. And the wind was blowing it towards us, so intermittently we could see people, and then we couldn't intermittently because we were enveloped in this fog. And it was cold because it was coming from the cryogenic fuel. So it was a sensation like Earth was waving at us with this intermitting way that we were looking at the people. So it was like a hug. It was a cold hug, surreal. And then we turned around and we went up the ramp. And so that was the beginning of non-stop set of emotions and the launch and the vibrations and the stages detaching and arriving to orbit, feeling weightless for the first time, feeling more free in the seatbelts. The first look out, the first dawn. So because we left at night, so when we arrived on orbit, it was still dark. And so after a few minutes, there was my first dawn in space. And all the docking phases, the arrival to ISS, an incredible image that I was lucky to see. That the first moment when I looked and I saw the ISS, we were about 30 meters from it. So looking forward, from my left seat, I could not see it, but when we were about 30 to 40 meters, I could see the solar panels, and I looked outside. And the first image that I had of ISS was that moment of transition, which now I've seen many times, but at the time I didn't know. But those few seconds when the sun is about to go under the horizon and the light becomes orange and the station is completely orange, and it was an incredible emotion. And then coming into the ISS and hugging the colleagues, and it was a torrent of emotion. So the idea of arriving and this phase of launch that was ending, but then this adventure that was beginning, it was undescribable.
Buongiorno Samantha, sono Marilulu.
Good day, Samantha. Marilulu Crezia, TG1. Can you tell us about your emotions and your surprise of the link up with the singer Zucchero? And then we've seen some Christmas decorations. And how are you going to spend your Christmas?
But Zucchero
was a surprise. They called me Saturday afternoon. I was writing some emails in my little room, in my phone booth, which is actually in the floor, but it doesn't matter up here. And so they called me from the Munich control center, and they told me there was a visitor who wanted to say hello. And then there was this exchange that was very rapid. But he confessed to me that he suffers from vertigo, and I told him that it would go away in space, because here you never have the sensation of falling, because in space there's no falling and you have no sensation of falling. And Christmas, yes. So our commander was really thoughtful, as the English say. So he prepared these stockings. So I think that in the next few weeks, when for example, if I find some kind of food that one of my colleagues likes particularly, I'm going to put it in the stocking. So little things like that. So I think at Christmas we will exchange a few little gifts. So the Christmas tree is part of the standard equipment of the ISS. So it's been here for several years. So when it's time, it'll be put up. Hi, Samantha. This is Sole 24. So on board of ISS, there's food that's made in Italy. What's a meal on the ISS? I have to say that so far, the food, I really appreciated it so far. But of course, at the beginning, you have so many new things to try, so I really can't complain. The bonus food that I brought from Italy is saving me, especially at lunch, because they're bags that were made as a one plate, where you can combine a quarter of the volume of carbs and a quarter of protein. So I had some fish and some chicken, and then vegetables. So it's a complete meal. So lunch especially, we're kind of rushed because maybe we're late from the morning activities, or we wanted to get the afternoon going a little bit early so that we're not late in the afternoon. And so we are sort of in a hurry, so you can just warm up some of the meal, and these tasty meals give me the assurance that without having to think about it, I already have a complete meal that's put together in a very attentive way by our chef.
Ciao Samantha.
Hi, Samantha. Laura Charallo, TG5. A couple of weeks is Christmas, and you will definitely spend a very special Christmas. Do you have some space wishes that you would like to extend to the Italians and to your friends and family? Of course, my friends and family, of course, I will have an opportunity to do that personally, but in terms of wishes for the Italians, I feel like I want to say this. I am a person who, from Italy, had so much. If I am on board of the International Space Station, it's thanks to Italy, the Italian Space Agency, but of course, in the end, thanks to all the Italians. So my Christmas wish is that there could be many more Italian men and women who might be able to say the same.
5 minutes left on the call.
Ciao Samantha.
Hi, Samantha. Andrea Bettini, Flight News 24. This week we all admire the beautiful photos that you posted from the ISS. I wanted to ask you if from up there, the way of looking at Earth changes. So first of all, I'm very sorry that I did not study geography better. I should have paid more attention in school. I don't know. You look at Italy. I look at Italy with great curiosity. I see all these features, all these physical features. It's like looking at an atlas, a physical atlas, not political. There are no borders. You see mountains, you see oceans, rivers, the clouds, volcanoes. You see these beautiful things. And I'm very curious in nature, I think like all astronauts. So one moment I'm admiring the beauty, which is an immediate impact. But then after that, I would like to understand, but what is this? Why is this formation this way? I have to say, I don't understand, I don't have the basics, so I would like to be able to read our planet better and understand it a little better. So for the next flight, definitely I will be studying geography a little more. But you really understand the richness and variety of shapes and colors. Every passage, you can go over the same place 1,000 times, and every time it's a different experience because the sunlight is a little different inclination. It's a planet that's living. It's continuously transforming. It's continuously moving. It's beautiful. Good day, Samantha. I wanted to ask so far, what's been the most difficult moment for you, and if there's an activity that's coming up that's worrying you the most? The hardest moment. Well, definitely, there was a very difficult activity that we did the day before yesterday with Butch, who is our commander, which was a maintenance on our EMU, our spacesuit that Terry is going to be using for a spacewalk in January. It's a very delicate work because we replaced a unit in the life support system from which his life will depend when he's out there. So it's a job that lasted many hours over 2 days, and it's very complex because this unit, when it was designed, it wasn't necessarily designed to be replaced on orbit and weightlessness. So normally everything on orbit, everything that's designed for orbit, all the screws are captive screws, so they don't come off completely from the unit. So in this case, that wasn't the case. So we had to work with lots of little elements that were really tiny, trying to avoid losing them. So really, without wanting to lose any, on a unit that was very, very delicate, like a space suit. So I'm very happy to be able to say that everything went well. And yesterday they did a checkout at the test, and the unit works perfectly. But surely so far, that's been the most complex and delicate activity that I've done. As far as the future goes, right now there's nothing that I'm worried about particularly, but then usually you realize that when you're doing things, how difficult they can be.
Ciao Samantha.
Hi, Samantha. Chiara Palestrazzi, Pane Quotidiano, a program of books and culture from Rai 3. You announced that you would have brought with you some books, and I wanted to know if you actually brought them, which ones, and if you actually have the time to read them.
Tempo per leggere fino adesso.
Time to read? Right now, I have not been able to find, but I do have many books from Gianni Rodari, which I would like to be able to read, of course, especially for the kids. I have Palomar by Calvino, Pilotker of Antoine Saint-Exupéry, and I don't think I'll be able to read them in their entirety. Also because I've read them before, but someday I would like to be able to take them out and read some pages and maybe read some passages while looking at Earth from the cupola.
Grazie mille, Samantha.
Thank you very much, Samantha.
Headquarters of the Italian Space Agency. Thank you very much, and talk to you soon. Thank you very much, and talk to you soon.
Thank you all. Great talking to you. Ciao, ciao.
Station, this is Houston ACR. That concludes the event. Thank you.
And thank you, European Space Agency, Italian Space Agency, and media. Station, we are now resuming operational audio communication.